Hi guys, for today we're going to talk about developing high-performing teams. So, a high-performing team is one in which all members are working together cooperatively to achieve shared goals. Now, regardless if it's a business, a class, a group, or an organization, one is very important, and that is achieving the shared goals of that particular group. Now, these groups can communicate clearly and as often as necessary. Now, they can also coordinate activities, recognize and respect one another's talent, know how each person can contribute to the group, evaluate group progress, give one another feedback, and achieve their objectives. Now, the tasks that the team produces require that members work in synchronization. They have specific roles and tasks required and are of their obligations to the group and exert effort to meet the expectations of the group. So, meaning they are committed to the goal that they have set, and they are committed to the people that they are working with. Now, there are three components that are critical to a high-performing team. Okay, it is talent, task, and time. Now, when we say talent, it is having people with skills, knowledge, and experience needed to perform the group's tasks. Of course, each and every member of the group has his or her own set of skills and talent and knowledge and experiences. So, the collective of the group is the experiences of all these members of the group. And of course, next is the task. Now, the task refers to the structure of the roles that each member is expected to perform. The more tasks are clearly delineated, the more likely the members will know what to do to accomplish the team's goals. Okay? So, tasks have to be clearly defined and has to be done by clear members of the organization. Of course, that doesn't mean that you, as a member of that organization, will only do certain tasks. If you recognize, for example, that you can contribute to another person's tasks, then maybe you can offer help. Next is time. Now, time refers to the willingness of the members to devote sufficient time and attention to the task, and the leaders setting a time or a frame of goal so that they will be accomplished, and they will be accomplished realistically. Now, high-performing teams also need leadership and coaching in relation to the stage of the group process. Now, for instance, teams need to be motivated when they begin. They need task structure as they work in the process of achieving that particular goal. Now, they need time also to reflect the process and feedback about their behavior and the results of the work that they have put in as individuals and, of course, as a team as a whole. Now, let's talk about interpersonal congruence. Now, teams are more effective when they start by acquainting their members to one another. What does this mean? In the start of a group dynamic, maybe for a business, for a presentation, or just a group project, it's better if you start by acquainting everybody to each other, especially if they don't know their group members personally. Why is this important? Because simply introducing all the members and having them describe the task-relevant experiences they had and the knowledge they possess will help members see each other accurately and agree about who is the best at what tasks. Okay? Now, interpersonal congruence occurs when members see one another similarly. Now, this helps them call on one another to perform elements of a task when they need it. Okay? One member may be best at asking potential contributors for money. Another member may be best at managing budget or ordering supplies. Still, others may be good at producing advertising flyers. Now, there are a lot of other people, let's say, that have technical knowledge to develop and deliver services. And they are the key to goal accomplishment. So, a lot of people have their own strengths and weakness. So, it's a matter of you as a leader or as a business owner utilizing the talents that you have inside that particular group. Next is transactive knowledge. Now, transactive knowledge develops as the members work with one another and establish operating routines for transactions among members. They invoke these routines time and time again, developing team-level expertise. Now, the group becomes adept at performing certain tasks. Of course, once you get acquainted with the members and you've worked with them in several projects, now you have already an idea of what their strengths and their weaknesses are. Okay? And also, as a group, you learn to perform and to move as a certain unit. So, transactive knowledge actually develop. For instance, this might be, let's say, an annual corporate task force to raise money for the underprivileged children. Or, let's say, an outreach program for families during Christmas Day. Okay? And the company has done this year after year after year. Now, because of that, the same employees are identified to handle that kind of activity. Okay? So, in a way, these employees participate each year, adding new employees to the corporate social structure or the corporate social responsibility task force over the years. Now, the team goes into, let's say, an automatic pilot mode that when they are doing this particular task, they already know, okay, this is what we're going to do. These are the people that are identified in doing certain tasks. Why? Because of experience. Now, they follow routines that may even be scripted with notes about the tasks that are needed, time frames, what can go wrong, and how to avoid certain problems. Now, routines about how to work together effectively help when circumstances change and unexpected events occur. Now, because you have those kinds of dynamic already inside your company, okay, meaning your employees or the members of the group actually knows how to work with each others and know the strengths and weaknesses of each other. So, autopilot comes in. So, recognizing that, okay, this person is good in writing letters, very good in grammar, this person is good in technical stuff, and this person is good with communicating with the client. So, you create a sort of symbiosis that is a structure within your company. Now, routines about how to work together effectively help the circumstances. Again, change and unexpected events occur. Emergencies and opportunities are chances for a group to do or to go into overdrive. Now, drawing on their knowledge of one another's talent and hard work and habits and implementing them to accomplish new tasks. So, these particular tasks help the organization when another tasks appear. Okay? So, meaning, having people that have experience working with each other is a plus in any organization. Now, let's talk about adaptive, generative, and transformative learning. Of course, when a group is accomplishing tasks or are working together, they learn. Members learn and leaders learn. Okay? Now, these are the types of learnings that happen. First is adaptive learning. Okay? It is making small changes in patterns of interaction in response to changing conditions. Now, this happens with little thought. For instance, if someone doesn't come to a meeting or an event, others take over or work is skipped with little effect to the final outcome. Now, the group has adapted before, so it can adapt again. It has learned how to do so and will adapt again if necessary. The meaning, one member cannot hold the group down. Even though he or she is not present, the group will still function. Next is generative learning. Generative learning is recognizing that what worked in the past may not work in the future. Teams that learn to be generative have members who acquire new skills and knowledge. Now, teach these skills and knowledge to other group members and experiment with different ways on how to apply the skills and knowledge that they have learned. As they do so, they develop new interaction patterns. Moreover, they strengthen their ability to generative learning in the future. They don't wait for circumstances to change because they know that they can adapt to that change. Now, they change the circumstances to fit their goals. Okay? Now, they may also change with their goals to match changing circumstances, but generative teams are continuous learners, so it's okay. Always on the lookout for new ways of doing things, of improving. Pressures and opportunities in the environment can stimulate generative learning. So members' openness to new ideas and knowledge and readiness to learn is very important. Last, we have transformative learning. Transformative learning is generative learning squared. Transformative learning is generative learning squared. That is, as the group engages in generative learning, it sometimes transforms itself into new enterprises, taking on new tasks and goals and reshaping its purpose and structure. Now, examples for this are, let's say, NGOs that expand their field of operations to new countries and new social services, or charities that broaden their goals to assume new challenges. Okay? So, meaning, you have learned in the process because you have done generative learning, meaning you can take on newer challenges. Not just improve on the system that you have now, but you can take on new tasks. Okay? Next. So, we have to understand that leadership is a balancing act. Okay? Team leaders need to balance three continua of opposing ends. Okay? First, you have to recognize that members have vested interests that they bring to the team, and it's developing shared goals. Now, every member has his or her own reason and motivation to be a member of that team. For example, in your class, other members or one member can be, let's say, very selfish, that he or she just wants to pass the subject. So, he or she will do as minimum effort as needed in order to pass the subject. Okay? Let's say another example, one member is really motivated to learn the subject. So, he or she has a different approach to the tasks that you are going to accomplish. Okay? Now, a different vision may or may not be in conflict with the leader's vision and goal. Okay? The leader needs to balance the individual viewpoints and interest with developing a single shared vision and basically set goals for the whole activity or enterprise. So, of course, let's say you are the leader, then you have to recognize that these are the motivations of your members. So, you have to balance everything out. Okay? Next, the leader needs to balance authoritative control with empowering members. This is very important. Now, some leaders enjoy the power trip of being in control. They may be that tight control. They believe that tight control is necessary because volunteer members, for example, can be counted on to meet their commitments. Or some members cannot be counted on. So, they need to be more assertive. Other leaders believe that empowering members to take responsibility for their roles and conduct may be a better approach. Okay? As long as they are held accountable for the outcomes that they produce. So, these are a more hands-free leader, that he or she trusts the members, but the members have to be accountable. Okay? Chances are, some control and some empowerment are valuable and needed, and this requires the leader to balance these two elements, being a leader and empowering your members. Lastly, leaders and teams need to balance a bias of action with taking time for feedback and reflection. Now, teams can engage in continuous generative learning by considering what worked well and what didn't work. As they move through their work, the group needs to focus attention on the goal and the process. Both are important, of course. As the team works on to the task, members should remember what they are trying to accomplish and why. Simultaneously, they must carry out each element of the task. Sometimes task elements seem to become ends to a means or ends in themselves, but always remember that people devote time and attention to elements of the task and feel that they have accomplished something important when the task is completed. So, every single member has to have a task and has to accomplish their task respectively in order for the group to work. Now, after accomplishing the task, everybody has this sense of achievement or fulfillment. Diba? That happens normally, for example, for students after the end of each term, where they do their culminating activity, and after doing their culminating activity, may it be, let's say, a project, a film, or a campaign, after executing it properly, you have a sense of pride and a sense of joy because you have accomplished something, and that something is accomplished by the group, and you are part of that group. So, the pride actually trickles down to you. Okay? So, one particular issue that you have to keep in mind when you are in a group performing a certain task is that there are a lot of personalities. Okay? And each individual, each member has, again, his or her own biases and motivations in accomplishing the task. Okay? So, consider these three types of misbehavior when talking about dealing with your group. Okay? Domineering or aggressive actions. So, some members and leaders like to dominate. Okay? They don't want to hear the others' idea, or they pretend to hear the others' idea, but they just follow their own. Next, you have your emotional influence appeals. Now, there are some instances when some group members, they don't want to contribute either, or they did not contribute, and then they make up a reason, or they tell you a reason, may it be true or not, that appeals to emotional influence. Okay? And lastly, you have resistance to change. This is, in my opinion, the most problematic, because they already know what they're doing and they don't want to change or to improve on what they're doing. So they resist change, or they resist evolving or learning new skills to improve on what they are doing. Now, most of us have struggled with trying to control or at least bear unruly group members. These are people who are domineering, use emotions to influence fellow group members. There are some group members, I don't want to do this. This is very, let's say, this task or this objective is very beneath us. Don't you think so? So when they are involving opinions, or they are influencing opinions of others for their own benefit, then those are what we call emotional influencers. Now, this can happen especially when the group is self-initiated or is composed of volunteers. and lacking task structures. And members, they may even don't have any talent, or they don't have the proper knowledge or the proper experience, or even sometimes the proper motivation needed to get the job done. Okay? This creates an opportunity for dysfunctional behavior. So that's where dysfunctional behavior comes in. Okay, consider what happens when the leader or one or more member is dominant, emotional, or resistant to change. So what will happen to the group? Okay, so the challenge is for the leader, okay, to motivate the members and to clearly explain the task at hand and assign these particular tasks to the members, and it's up to the members to hold the leaders accountable. In a way, it's up to the members to accomplish the task and to, in a way, help others accomplish the task also. Okay? So, you have to make it a point that you talk about these kinds of dynamics or these kinds of people. Okay? And you have to make it a point to assess and to solve these kinds of challenges. Okay? So, what are the leader responsibilities? Now, high-performing teams require, again, time, task structure, and the right talent. Okay? The leader or others who commission the team invite members and structure the goals and tasks so that the team has the ingredients for high performance. Okay? So that's one primary task of the leader, is to structure tasks so that it will be done in an effective and efficient manner. Now, task and time frame are often unclear at different stages of a group's life. In such cases, the leader must generate member commitment, identify talents in the group, and try to match tasks to talent as much as possible while establishing system structures and time frame. So, there are a lot of responsibilities that the leader has to do. But the reason for him or her being a leader is those kinds of responsibility. Okay? So, if you don't want to take on those kinds of responsibility, then don't volunteer or as a leader. Or if you are the assigned leader, maybe you can defer your position to another person. It's better if you think that another person will lead this group more effectively. Now, what are the member responsibilities? Now, members need to be engaged to invest energy, feel involved, and believe in their efficacy. So, before having the commitment of your members, you have to engage them. You have to ask for their commitment by motivating them. Okay? Members need to feel a sense of urgency and excitement about working on a common vision. Make them feel excited. Make them feel that they're not just a part of the team, but they are a very important part of the team. Now, members share the same vision, see it clearly, and understand that they have the same primary goal, whatever their individual secondary motives are. Okay? So, meaning, you can accomplish your goal or you have your own motivation, but you must always be aligned with the goal of the group in general. Now, members understand what tasks are required to achieve the vision, their individual roles, and their assignments, and the extent to which they are held accountable as individual and a team for carrying out roles. So, they have to be engaged. They have to feel a sense of urgency. They have to feel excitement. And of course, they have to be accountable. So, of course, there is an interaction between a member and the leader, what we call member-leader dynamic. Okay? Now, the leader needs to build consensus around the common vision. Okay? It doesn't have to be just his or her vision. He or she has to build consensus. Okay? Integrate tasks and measure of accomplishment for feedback and improvement. Now, for members, they need to understand that they can do more if they work together. Now, consider 3 ways in which leaders and members interact in group and exert effort on one another. So, again, they rely force of personality, method of influencing fellow members, and willingness to learn and change. Okay? So, again, the leader needs a plan to motivate members. Okay? They have to have a plan not just to assign tasks to individual members, but also to motivate them. And after, to give them feedback to improve. Now, also, leaders use variety of personality characteristics to make their presence known, communicate their ideas, and reward or coerce their members. So, of course, it depends on the style of the leader. Unfortunately, some leaders are dominant. They are forceful, loud, outspoken, and hard to ignore. Larger than life. These are people that enjoy being in the spotlight and enjoy having power or control. Now, members may also be dominant. Yeah? There are some members that are louder than the leader, voicing their opinions and influences whenever there is a void in the group process. He or she wants to become the leader herself or himself. Okay? Others may prefer to be in a participative environment. They listen and learn from their fellow members. Now, leaders who favor a participative environment are more likely to empower their group members by sharing the leadership role with them during the decision-making process. Of course, naturally, participative environments are more conducive and acceptable to diverse views and can benefit from the synergies that result from the integration of these views. Of course, everything in terms of group dynamics, it's better if you have balance, that you have a participative leader and also have a participative member that can basically work with each other. But of course, in reality, that is not the case. You have a lot of, what you call this, you can encounter a lot of personalities that do not jive with your own. Okay? But you have to keep in mind that, of course, you have to be professional. Okay? So, patterns of leaders and members' characteristics. Now, consider 2 possible patterns that represent opposite extremes. Okay? Now, of course, other combinations are possible too. So, you have dominant, emotional, and change-resistant, for example. A forceful leader may concentrate on warnings about possible losses, like dire consequences for not acting, or gains about, let's say, the benefits that they can achieve. So, there are those kinds of leader that, okay, when we don't do this, this will happen. If we do this, this will happen. A reward will happen. Consequence versus reward. Now, this leader may adapt the message and strategies only when challenged in some way. For instance, when insufficient resources require delaying goals, now other forceful members of the group may exert their influence, creating discord or preventing progress. Okay? Now, members who are consensus yet cooperative may kowtow, okay, on the authority. Sometimes they form or join factions that create conflict and even split the group. Okay? Others are passive-aggressive, for example. They appear to accept the decisions but not act on them. Okay? So, because of this, others may feel frustrated and others may feel cynical, and the group dynamic crumbles altogether. Now, such a group develops patterns of interaction that follow the leader's authority or result in stagnation or intransigencies. Okay? So what does that mean? So it's the it's the leader's fault attitude. If the leader fails or if the group fails, it's because of the leader. If the group succeeds, it's also because of the leader. Okay? So that is a dynamic that you actually have to avoid. Because again, a process or a purpose of working in a group is to achieve a common goal. Okay? Next is participative, fact-centered, and learner or learning-oriented. Okay? A participative leader may concentrate on providing factual information and remain open to involvement with others, engaging them in the process of conceptualization, clarifying vision, sharing ideas, collecting information, educating one another, trying different strategies, and building an effort that members feel that this group is as much as the leaders as their own. Other cooperative members of the group are respectful of one another and are open to divergent views. Now, dominant members of the group may try to usurp the leader's role to create conflict. If the leader is participative, meaning he or she wants the input of the members, this may open a dominant member to usurp power or to, in a way, position his or herself to become the leader, the de facto leader, so to speak. Now, the group develops and participates in that particular group dynamic, and in a way, they develop patterns of interaction that allow them to learn continuously from one another, ready to experiment, shift goals in new directions, and even try new tactics. Now, the participative leader is especially adept at encouraging effective brainstorming, as he or she is non-judgmental and is open to new ideas during group discussion. Okay, you can say that this is a better leader, a participative leader. But also, try to keep in mind that in a way, you must also, from time to time, practice or apply your power as a leader and as a decision maker. You don't have to always delegate everything. At one point or another, you must have, let's say, an executive decision. Okay, now, these particular interactions, the examples and the things that we have talked about, okay, in a way, create evolving patterns. Okay, consider how these three patterns emerge and developed at three general stages of group evolution. Our group actually evolves as we perform the task. We learn, we cause friction, we develop dynamics. Okay? In a way, the group evolves and matures because of the experiences that happen during the accomplishing of the task. Okay? So, the first is inception. When the idea is first conceptualized and communicated, then meaning it's the time for envisioning and engaging members of the group. Okay? Second is formulation, when members are recruited and organized. These are stages, ha. And the third is sustained action, when the group engages in the task and in some cases become an ongoing entity. So let's first talk about inception. Inception, again, is the time for envisioning and engaging members and stakeholders. So the leader clarifies the need for the team, shares the initial vision, and recruits members. Okay? Now, the dominant, emotional, and change-resistant leaders, what they do, they warn of the dangers. Okay, if we do not do this, then maybe we will not make a bonus. Or if we do not do this, then maybe we will lose our jobs. See? The leader rewards the like-minded individuals who respond to authority and structure. And, of course, if we accomplish this with flying colors, then we're going to be rewarded with bonuses. Okay? Now, the team alters its vision, strategies, or behaviors only in minor ways. When because of the influence of more powerful forces or constrained resources. Okay, so conceptualization, brainstorming happens during inception. In contrast to the dominant leader, for example, the participative, fact-centered, change-oriented leader creates a compelling statement of vision and accompanied by tasks to demonstrate the goal in the end. Now, these leaders seeks input from others in order for the group to function. Okay? They also generally recognize and welcomes divergent views. So this kind of leader actually accepts that there are opposing and divergent views. Unlike the dominant leader, the participative leader is a facilitator. Decision making is collaborative, and within the group, participation happens. Okay? Not autocracy, but more of democracy in decision making. Okay? Formulation is a time for strategizing or engineering. The leader and the team formulate goals and tactics. Okay? They obtain resources and establish task structures and job descriptions for each members. Okay? The dominant leader, emotional, change-resistant leaders makes assignment autocratically. This is your assignment. You have to do this in this time. This is yours, this is yours, this is yours. Okay? In a way, it's my way or the highway. Okay? But a more participative leader, of course, conversely shares responsibilities and engages the team, again, in a joint decision-making process. Okay? Sustaining is a time for taking action, assessing process and outcomes, and making improvements. The leader of the team advocate their beliefs. Now, they track their actions and outcomes, experiment, and even seek feedback. The greater the need for the team to act in an efficient manner and execute operations with precision, the better. Okay, of course, again, the dominant leader ignores errors and unfavored reactions if the result is not consonant with the goals, and in a way withdraws or seeks different decision makers and venues for activities. Okay, this is the dominant leader. Now, the participative, fact-centered, change-oriented leader tries different approaches, tracks results, seeks feedbacks, and learns from errors. Of course, the patterns of leadership and members actually use of personality influence strategy. And learning orientation are not as cut and dried as these descriptions. Of course, it's not just when saying this is a dominant leader, then the dominant leader only does this, this, and this. Of course, it's not. It doesn't necessarily have to work, or it doesn't work that way. Sometimes it's a combination of both that becomes more effective. Okay, the ability of the leader to create high-performing team will depend on the composition of the group. Okay, the leader is likely to be more effective in creating vision, structuring tasks, and tracking outcomes if members have a common background, share prior experience, and hold values that are aligned with each other and aligned with the group's goals. In such cases, the members may respond positively to the leader regardless or in spite of the leadership style. Alternatively, if the member doesn't have uncommon or if doesn't have a common background, prior shared experience, and aligned values, now they are likely to be more critical of the leader and less responsive with one another. Okay? In the case wherein members do not have a common background, yet their relationship is marked by specialization, credibility, and cooperation, transactive memory may happen. Okay? They will be enhanced, resulting in what is likely to be highly effective team also, but with not driving personalities. It can happen. Diba? For example, Eraserheads, the band. They have different personalities. They have, as Ellie said, they are not friends, but they are good workmates. Because when they work together, even though they're very different, they are coming from different perspectives, they make good music together. So again, it doesn't necessarily have to have a personal relationship embedded in the group dynamic. Okay, now, consider the following examples. Now, I want you to think about situations where there is a dominant leader and a dominant member. What will happen? Okay? Of course, we can say that the group will implode because everybody wants to become a leader and everybody wants to become a decision maker. Okay? Next is a participative leader and a dominant member. So that is also not healthy. Why? Because of course the leader will then become two hands off and the member will assume the power. In a way, the decision making will become the member's responsibility. Okay? Now, 3, dominant leader, participative member. This can work, but still, okay, it doesn't have a balance where participative members are just assigned tasks and that's it. Yeah? No dynamics or no communication or very little communication happens and very little opinion sharing and reasoning among each other in the group. You have, lastly, you have participative leader and participative member. Of course, this is what we're trying to achieve. But, again, as we know, in reality, it never happens that way all the time. Okay? Which of the situations would you prefer? I assume it's number 4, of course. And it will be ideal to do so, to be in a group where everybody is communicating with one another and everybody is respecting each other's opinions and everybody is in tune with one goal. Okay? But remember that you might not always be in an ideal environment. So you have to adapt based on situations, tasks, and needs of the group. So if you're a leader or even if you're a member, so you have to generally become what do you call this? A person who adapts. If you think that they need to have a more assertive leader, then you can call for the leader to become more assertive. If he or she doesn't want to be assertive, then maybe you can step in. Or if you have a very domineering leader, you may want to, let's say, communicate with the leader saying that this particular leadership style is not effective to the group. So it depends on the situation. Okay? Now, implications for practice. So this is what happens when we have different kinds of dynamics. So the components of a high-performing team, okay, talent, task, structure, and time, are often not under control of the group leader. It's shared by everybody. Okay? As a result, the challenge of turning an ill-informed group into a high-performing team depends on how the leaders and the members use their personal characteristics, leadership styles, communication strategy, and learning behavior. Okay? Personal characteristics include an elusive concept of charisma, a force of personality that compels others to act. Some people actually have that kind of personality that compels or motivates others to act. Okay? Like what we've talked about in the previous slide, leadership styles may be authoritarian or participative. Okay, inviting group members to contribute ideas and influence decisions and actions. So, again, always remember that you have to combine or you have to balance it out. Okay? Communication strategies may draw on emotions, facts, and data, or a combination of influence and opinion. Now, learning is openness to new knowledge and ideas and being willing to try new things. Okay? Now, I suggest that the leaders are likely to engage members' commitment and create a continuous learning team when they are open to new ideas and direction from the group members. Now, deliver forceful and positively emotional messages, but also base that message on data and fact. And experiment with new ways of interacting with new programs and services. Okay? Not all participative leaders kasi rely on facts and some may depend on a more emotional appeal. So again, it depends on the personal relationship you have with the members of the group and the working relationship you have with them also. Lastly, we're going to talk about the steps that leaders, group facilitators, and members can take to create a high-performing team. Number one, understand not only the nature of the mission as it currently is set forth, but how this mission may currently be in need of transformation in the future. So remember, not everything is set in stone, not even the goal. The goal may change. Next, view problems from different perspectives. It's better to look at things in different viewpoints. Next, identify the current strengths and weaknesses of individual group members and the team as a unit. So you have to know your members and recognize their strengths and weakness. Next, recruit talent from outside the group to complete and improve the effectiveness of the initially ill-informed group. So if you think that your group is in need of other perspective outside the group, then it's better to ask for it. Next, make task assignments in relation to group members' interests and abilities. So, if you're going to ask or task a member of the group, make sure that he or she is capable of doing it and interested in doing it. Next, coach and teach the members to develop the skills and or characteristics needed by the group. Meaning design jobs or roles to give members experiences that will help the group later. Okay? So meaning, even if you say this person is recognized for this particular talent, maybe in another job or in another goal, you can add in or share different experiences. In a way, ask that particular member to do other things so that he or she can be enriched. Okay? Essentially, not be just a one-trick pony. Next, engage the leader and members in self-reflection to recognize how they use persona, convey message, and learn. So, at one point or another, you must have self-reflection or ask your group to do self-reflection. Next, identify and emulate benchmark examples of other continuous learning teams. So, set standards. Next, clarify expectations. Those of executive, other stockholders, team leaders, and members. And clarify available resources. So, you have to be honest with your group. Okay? You have to know what their expectations are and if you're meeting them, and you have to clarify what are your expectations. Also, energize, structure, and track group activities through participation, fact-finding, and analysis. And generativity. So, generating. The leader who relies on a dominant persona, emotional message, and change-resistant learning will probably have a difficult time retaining members and making the process in the long run. Okay? So, it's better for you to become a more open leader if the situation dictates. Next, use the devil's advocate approach in a manner that encourages a culture wherein civil disagreement is encouraged while dysfunctional and needless conflict is not. Arguments, debate, and disagreements are natural to any group and in a way is needed. Okay? But conflict and dysfunction is not. So it's okay to debate, it's okay to argue, just as long as you're arguing about the goal and you know clearly what the objective is. Do not insert something personal or do not insert something that is not related to the goal. Next, be willing to delegate aspects of the decision making to members who specialize in the subject matter. In the process, the transactive memory of the group will be enhanced. So if you think that one particular member has more knowledge or can contribute more, then you can ask that member for his or her own insights. Okay? Next, encourage imaginative thinking through the introduction of scenarios and what-if exercises into the group discussion. So, foreseeing. Okay? Having foresight. Next, ensure that members with complementary yet divergent skill sets do not compete with one another, okay? But be integrated inside the groups and contribute with their talents. Okay? Last 4, provide challenging yet clearly obtainable goals for the group. Okay? So, what are the goals that we need to accomplish and how do we accomplish it? Ensure that critical feedback is not personal. It is constructive and efficacy building. So if you're doing criticizing, make sure that the words that you use are not personal so that the person who is receiving it will not receive it in a very defensive manner. Next, recognize and reward accomplishment. This is very important. Of members who may not otherwise possess great deals of stature within the group. You recognize the contributions of these members, okay? Even though you're the ones who will be recognized by the higher-ups, make sure that you introduce or you mention their name. Now, I could not have done this without the help of my group, especially in the technical part or especially in this particular part. So, you all are recognized, not just the leader. Lastly, champion innovative ideas by providing necessary support. Okay? So, you have to create an avenue or create a culture within your group that innovative ideas are always welcome. Okay? Now, for my final note, forming or being a member of a team, regardless of its purpose, will require us to open ourselves up and interact with different personalities, dispositions, and temperament of people. So we can work with a number of different personalities, a number of different attitudes of people. Of course, maintaining a degree of professionalism will go a long way. Ultimately, what will count is the result of the task, of course. But you always have to consider that the task will only be part of the whole challenge. And that your career will depend on balancing a given task and maintaining relationship, personal or professional, with the people you work and interact with. Okay? Now, when you are creating your team or when you are building your team to make it high-performing, Okay? You have to, again, be open, be flexible, and maintain relationships with the people you are interacting with. Okay? So, in that note, that ends my presentation. If you have any questions, please feel free to send me a course message, or questions will be addressed in our synchronous session. Now, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in my next videos and our synchronous sessions. Goodbye.